Beings are very opportunistic. That includes us, people, of course. Whether it's the animals, animal kingdom, they look at, opportunities to safeguard their survival, perpetuation of what is comfortable. And then as you go up the ladder to human beings, we also seek for, yes, conveniences, support system, whatever gives us pleasure. So now we're getting more refined, other than just the survival, what is required for our survival, but also pleasure. What also comes with that is to make use of whatever we have available around us. And resources, things that we see as our treasure trove of qualities, things that perpetuate our experience of pleasure, and to maximize that, to make that more and more and more and more and more and more. Well, the easiest thing to spot, to locate, is one's own life. And what I mean by that is the body. The resources here, they don't necessarily have to just be the material possessions or things that you have at your disposal, but it also, in this case, we're going back to the most basic things, such as your appearance, your skin, your eyes, your body, perhaps your intellect. Anything that you consider to be an asset, something that you rely on, something that gives you attention to, from the world, grabs attention, brings prominence to you, fame, renown, or other people consider it significant, whereby you feel good about yourself because you have that quality. Well, look around you. How many people can you spot that in? Like, how many people do you notice are undergoing that experience? If you pay real close attention, you will see that 100% of the time that's what you see, what is going on around you. Not just in the human species, but everywhere. Animals, etc. But my address of this question is towards humans, us. We're always looking at ways to keep ourselves drugged by avoiding what's happening. What is happening is that the body is slowly deteriorating. Inevitably deteriorating. So it is, there's that photograph that I've seen of a man who is trying to nail down the waves on the beach. That's a perfect representation of what we do as species. A man who's in his 50s or 60s, who's going or even younger, or a woman going and exercising and trying to look as attractive as they did, let's say, 20, 30 years prior, making sure that they have, they're obsessively pursuing health to make sure that not only are they healthy, but even more so, they are somewhat grabbing attention from others so that they feel good about themselves. a person who is making sure that they're always at the sharp end of the arrowhead, basically, in making sure that they get all the opportunities to make more money, to dominate their field, to dominate politically, to dominate this, to make sure that their voice is number one. Or waking up in the morning and the first thing you think about is, how do I gain more influence? This has actually spread like wildfire in our species in this modern times, where it's no longer a special group of elite people in a certain field, certain profession, let's say physicians, doctors, lawyers, politicians, all these things, or religious figures who used to command a lot of attention, people bowing, etc., etc. It's not just that, it's everyone, where everyone's become like an influencer, they have that dreadful desire every morning when we wake up. I mentioned the word drugged. We want to maintain that, you can call it dopamine kick, that heightened state of addiction that we have now. Heightened because it's always, it's after, the mind is always after some way to be spiked, to be always on, always completely on the edge of the abyss where you're sliding. And at that moment of sliding down into the abyss, we close our eyes. There's a certain deception at every single interval, every single moment, where we take a breath and we close our eyes and we dive. We dive into what? We dive into the willful delusion, to maintain a willful delusion. Well, delusion, why am I calling it a delusion? The delusion that I will be able to beat old age. I will be able to beat the fact that I will be without my loved one or loved ones. Or the day will come where I will lose this perfect health. I will lose, I don't know, you pick. This is why I said in the beginning, anything that you feel, in a sense, is the reason for your being. And what I'm referring to is, it could be, as I said, your intellect, it could be your eyes, it could be your body, it could be your figure, it could be your health, it could be your money, your family, your relationship, your political ideas, your social standing, all of these things with which people drive themselves off the edge into the abyss, the slippery edge. What I am referring to here specifically is holding ourselves back from looking at what we are trying to desperately do, which is willfully delude ourselves to forget that this body will die, that the lovely relationships we have are doomed from the start to end. Now, the Dhamma, Buddhism, does not teach us to become gloomy. That is what, existentialism and schools of Western philosophy, at some point, pessimism. This is not supposed to drive us to a state of pessimism. There's a, fine edge. That's why Lord Buddha calls it the middle path. It's the middle. going and becoming pessimistic towards life, given what I just shared, is an extreme. The other extreme is indulging in them, and that's what we're trying to do. We're indulging in all of these things that I just mentioned that we hold so high up in value, for which we sacrifice so much. And the biggest thing we sacrifice is each and every one of our days of our lives. When we wake up, we don't look at this body as if it's a carcass that we're dragging around our neck. Because that's what it is. This is not my example. The Buddha gave this example. Imagine you have let's go easy, let's go small, okay? Think of a snake, a dead snake around your neck. Or let's even go smaller, a cockroach. Would you take a dead cockroach and put him in your, in your front pocket, or as a woman, like a brooch on your chest, like on your dress? Would you wear that? It's disgusting. It's appalling. Just a cockroach, even alive, is, for many of us, it's like, ugh, okay. Brings up disgust. How about if it's a snake that you're carrying around, a dead snake or a live snake? How about if it's a bigger animal, like a deer or a cow or an elephant, or your own body? In fact, you don't even need to visualize another body. The meditation masters in the past, in the present, would tell you that you are a walking cemetery. Why? Because even if you go ahead and scrape off your skin, you'll have hundreds of thousands of dead cells, living cells that used to be living, they're now dead. And on top of those dead cells, you already have detritivores, those tiny little organisms that eat dead things. If you have an electron microscope and look really closely on the surface of your skin, dead or alive skin, you will become shocked, because Hollywood cannot beat, in their sci-fi department, special effects department, the kind of monstrous looking, fearsome looking animals that exist, that are devouring us. We don't talk about these things because we don't want to look that deep. That's what I'm trying to say. That's why the woman's going and putting on, billions and billions of dollars worth of makeup and plastic surgery. Not just women, by the way, men too nowadays. What are we doing though? Why? Cover up. Cover up. To cover up the stench of the dead carcass we carry around. Now, this is not just meant to, shock us in a sense. I don't have to shock us. It's happening, that's what I'm trying to say. But we are completely, willfully trying to delude ourselves that this job that I have, this company that I started from zero, from scratch, that now is a multi-billion-dollar, Fortune 500 company, or making billions and billions of dollars, I'm not going to take with me. Jeff Bezos has to take so many different, human growth hormones and things like that to keep himself healthy. He has to go and work out. He has to maintain his relationships with people. Plus run, his vast empire. Same thing with all the other billionaires or politicians, or just the other average, below average, performing company head. We all have to do that depending on our standard of what we consider to be giving us pleasure. But ultimately, what's going to happen? We're all going to die. We're going to see all that slip through our fingers. So when you go and visit a museum, when you go and read a book on past history, people who had power, people who had at their time prestige, and they had it all, what happened to them? It is it should be mandatory for us to go and look up review what happened to individuals. Is any one of them alive still? How about the kings and the monarchs and the queens and all these people who were powerful? So what you do have, however, with which you can change, is to put an end to all of this. And instead of looking and being mesmerized by all these toys, whether it's your physical beauty, whether it's the money you have, and whether it's your physical abilities, let's say if you're an athlete or you're a top martial artist, or I don't know, Olympic athlete, or wealthy, successful business, or entertainer, this and that, top of your game basically, all that's going to be stripped away from you. What will be left is what was always the most valuable. I think it was 2004 where there was that tsunami in Southeast Asia, Thailand, Sri Lanka was hit, India was hit, and all those areas, Indonesia. I remember there was a case where someone, she was on the news at the time, she was apparently a model, and next thing she notices she's on a tree or something. They recover her, half conscious, half not, and she loses her body. Basically, her body is no longer what it was. That's a very dramatic event, world-changing event, but it doesn't have to be that at that level. Every morning when we wake up, we should be grateful that we are alive. That's what I'm trying to say. But the purpose that runs us, the engine, the fuel that runs us, need not be driven by these temporary, transitory, impermanent causes, purposes, targets. That's why the image of a carcass that you're wearing around your neck comes in. This was a very grotesque image, even at the time of the Buddha 2,600 years ago, when he did bring it up. He did mention this to people, to wealthy people, to courtesans that used to come, basically, glorified prostitutes that had seen something in the Buddha's teachings, that they came in and they said, well, maybe there's something here. And all of a sudden they have a switch happen in their mind, and they relinquish that kind of a lifestyle. Even though they were more wealthy than the queen, getting more attention from the kings and the princes than the queen or royal women. It was shocking for them, but it was powerful enough to make them be jolted into reality that, yeah, that prettier girl over there, the other new, upcoming person in this career is going to get more attention because my beauty is fading. The man who's walking is saying, now I walk so briskly, so healthily, and I eat good food. My stomach, my GI tract is not going to be that healthy. No matter how well I take care of it, I'm going to die. This is what Buddhism is trying to wake us up to, because it's saying we are on a time clock, we are on a deadline. Please wake up. Use all of these facilities that I mentioned, all of these resources. Use them. The Buddha didn't say just, for householders who wanted to live that life, you must leave. No. He didn't say that. He encouraged people to bring the awareness into their unique circumstances, to really take advantage of the fact that my wealth is not going to be there all the time. My knowledge and understand, my memories won't be there all the time. So let me do it now. So do what? Even if you just can bring into mind the awareness that things don't last, already you develop a sense of non-attachment to the thing that is, well, that in which you're absorbed. Which means if you notice something in your company, in your social structure or your relationships that is less than ideal, you don't freak out. You don't lose it. It's not the end of the world for you, because you still can live and see another day and make changes. This is where the CEO of a company cannot, be stuck with, did I make another billion today? Versus, are my workers, are my employees getting sufficient lunchtime? Or are they getting, if and when any of my employees or their family members need medical attention, are they getting it easily, or do they have to jump through so many hoops and still have to pay out of pocket despite the fact that they work so hard for me? Or did I, despite the fact that I'm a very wealthy person, this and that, or the person might think, oh, I'm very attractive, I'm very important, basically, head turner, as they say, and I'm walking and I see something happen and some injustice happen, or I see someone being mistreated. Do I stop and look at that child or that old woman and just say, it's okay, and give them a smile or give them some support? Just for the sake of doing that, because again, this is a huge opportunity. The fact that I'm still alive and have the opportunity to give that sense of caring and love to another person who's I'm not related to. This is when you're breaking out of the cage of self-centeredness, in the sense that absorption, where it's all about you and how well you can take advantage of your circumstances. Well, if you're going to take advantage of your circumstances, this would be the best way of doing it. Buddhism would teach you, would encourage you. Because as I mentioned in the beginning, everybody is trying to make use of their resources around them. It could be your health, body, mind related, intellect related. So you're working both on both fronts. One, in bringing awareness, cognizance of yourself, your intentions, your intentional actions, which we call kamma or karma. And by that same token, your behavior is changing, your disposition is changing, you're improving your quality. You're becoming truly a marvelous asset for the entire existence. Because now you're saying you are more than your title. You are more than your credentials. You are more than what your bank account says, or your connections in society and powerful, influencing roles that you have. And the other thing I was saying is, so that's very personal, but it reflects out, it radiates out into the society. That's a wonderful way of demonstrating loving kindness, metta, which we call in this practice, in this Dhamma and discipline, where you go beyond the boundaries of what is in it for me mentality, which is what today's society, again, is highly, highly focused on. That's another aspect of this influencer culture that we have. Because, as I said, druggies, or being a drug addict, which we all are in this world, if you're connected to the highly technologically, highly influenced world in which we live, everybody's connected. Cell phones, for example. And whatever's happening And it's almost like the heroin addict, where we always need to get our hit. A text, did I get the text? Did I get that email? Any email, I don't care. Any emails, you can send me anything, even if it's going into my junk mail or something. Take it easy. Give yourself a couple of days where you say, I'm going to go on a digital fast, but I'm not going to look at my emails. And maybe reroute them into your very, very important, I don't know how you do it, but a mailbox where you can just check that versus the others. So you have to be your own sifter, not allowing everything to go through, to grab your attention like that, where you take charge of your life. Otherwise, you're just taking advantage of your circumstances in the wrong way. Even when it comes to donating money, I've seen this in my life as a Bhikkhu, as a Buddhist monk, where individuals might come in different parts of society, in different parts of the world, where the person comes and does the bow, let's say if it's in that culture, makes a donation or gives you even a cup of water, but you teach them Dhamma, this and that, but they're not there. It wasn't even just cultural, it was like, okay, I wanted to score some points. That's ugly. I want to gain some merits, punya we call it. It's like that was my, I'm waiting for my return type of a thing. One day I did that for that purpose. That is ugly. So even when a person donates financial support to a Buddhist monk, or gives them a cup of water, or provides them with a meal, or our 4 requisites: roof over our head, robes, meal, and medicine. That's it. Even when a person is doing that, it's very important to ask, why am I doing this? Otherwise, this is going to be somewhat shocking for some people. It's no different than that lady who's growing older with the wrinkles on her face as she's applying tons of makeup. Because you're missing the point. You're deluding yourself and deluding the whole purpose of the beautiful act that it's supposed to be. It's not a tit for tat. It's not like, okay, I scratch, your back, you scratch my back type of a situation either. There's a beautiful opportunity for you to take a moment from the fickleness of life, instability of life, and establish yourself in something that is wondrous, because you're giving from yourself, from your time, from your resources, from your valuable time, from your life. To do what? Look at the carcass around your neck, not to add more carcasses. You don't do more dana to add more carcasses around your neck, whether for this life or in other lives to come. Because that's what I see. That's why you have beautiful monasteries built around the world for hundreds of years, actually over thousands of years. People have been building monasteries for monks and things. Why? To secure better housing for themselves in some heavenly realm, basically. It's funny. It's sad and funny. It's grotesque. Meanwhile, if that person had just dedicated a portion of their day to practicing sati, mindfulness, being aware as they walk in and out of a room, from one boardroom to the next, from one task as a layperson, okay, to another, their quality of life would have changed completely without some elaborate, bombastic, some hugely, eye-catchy type of a donation. No, you don't. Look at the most basic parts. First of all, you're responsible for yourself. Okay, you're working against time. That's big. You have resources. That's wonderful. Now we're on step 3, so you can actually really apply what you have for the right purposes. The right purpose here has to do with urgency. So you use whatever bit of knowledge you can gain to understand and penetrate through how things come to be, what really things are. We call it yata bhutang pajanati. The person sees how things arise. And now you gear your attention. Yeah, go ahead and make your billion-dollar business work, while you're aware that any moment it can be, you could be stripped of it. Your health, this, that, your relationships. So this gives you the understanding that even though you're not in charge of these huge things that happen, such as impermanence, you're not deluding yourself. So no longer are you in delusion. See, this is why I was saying willful delusion. This is willful wisdom. You're making room for wisdom to occur while you're going about living your life. Where is the pessimism here? No longer. Because you are now mature enough to not lie to yourself. You're no longer living in Disneyland of running after the 5 senses. What are these hugely, incredibly, insanely rich people doing? They buy new toys. They buy the biggest yachts. They buy the biggest housing or the, islands. Well, what is the difference between that and a child, really? Who runs around the fake streets of Disneyland somewhere. Fake streets of Disneyland, where people are it's all make-believe. Overcharged French fries. Food, meanwhile. It's deluded. There's no difference. Now, on the other hand, if you are that incredibly rich person running a very successful company, while you're aware of what's really happening, and then you take it easy, and you focus on your relationship with yourself, the fact that you could drop dead any moment, and the fact that all the world around you, the things that you hold so valuable, are also changing. People, relationships, loved ones. And that changes your attitude. So you approach things with wisdom, and you approach things with generosity. So now it's a lovely type of a giving. It's not like you're, an investor constantly thinking about, okay, what's going to happen next over there. You're here with the moment. You're here with yourself. You're here with feeling a sense of soothing happiness. Such a person will never wear a carcass around their neck and enjoy it. So I hope this was not a very philosophically demanding type of a good Sukhiyoto. May it be helpful.